Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. First graphic is the hazardous weather showing a yellow area here, signifying a wind advisory out for the eastern Alaska range. That's out currently and will remain out tonight and until 6 p.m. Saturday. That's for winds, which are currently gusting to about 40 miles an hour. 35 to 40 miles an hour at Delta. They're going to expect to be increasing with gusts to 55 miles an hour, especially through the passes through tonight and into tomorrow afternoon. And moving on to the fire danger chart, what we had up here yesterday in the north is gone. Still have some high fire danger there in the central Tanana Valley over to about Tanana, also on the to the northwest here, the western Alaska range. And Susitna Valley, a little bit of high fire danger there, but with the rain moving in, that should help it quite a bit. High fire danger here in the Copper River Basin, mostly due to the wind, which was gusting 40 miles an hour, also at Gulkana, so quite an area of wind here from Gulkana on up across the Alaska range. And then areas of extreme fire danger out over the southwest there, just west of Iliamna Lake. And then along the, looks like the lower Kuskokwim River on out to the Delta there and around Bethel with some higher fire danger up into the Yukon Delta area. Otherwise, on satellite imagery, here's the front with all the clouds and the moisture spreading northeastward quite rapidly today. Rain most of the night at Kodiak Island, spreading up across the southern Alaska Peninsula early this morning, and then on up into the Anchorage area, continuing to push northward and, of course, eastward as well. Rain across Prince William Sound. Dry day for a change here across all of the southeast coast, and dry up over the interior with increasing high clouds with this front. Not too much precipitation back here with this portion back to the west. There was some pretty good winds with the system as well. St. Paul, St. George getting gusts about 40 miles an hour ahead of the front there. And mostly just clouds, rain, fog here from the Fox Islands back to the Adak area. And another band bringing some moisture into the Alaska Peninsula. The break behind the front right through here into Bristol Bay now up looks like Togiak. Behind the front, drier conditions, and also down along the Alaska Peninsula. Higher pressure back here to the west. So not much going on out over the western Aleutians there, or the northern Bering Sea for that matter. And pushing this along again, you still see upper level low pressure circulating there right along the Arctic coast. That kept snow going the entire day today at Barrow. They picked up about 0.17 water equivalent precipitation. All fell as snow though. That would have, if it stuck, would have been about 1 to 2 inches worth, with scattered areas of snow off to the east there. And then back toward Wainwright seeing steady snow, which tapered off and became mixed with rain as you went on down the coastline there to Point Lay in toward Cape Lisburne. Nice day here over the Seward Peninsula and the upper Yukon Valley. On the chart, here's that front mid-afternoon Friday, past or right near Kodiak Island, about to move through there. All that rain spreading northward, south to north flow here, ridging over the, just off the southeast coast. So they had a nice day there, but a lot of cloudiness along the north coast. And then over the northern part of the Panhandle, but more sunshine down to the south, clouds spreading northward, and that trough and the snow along the Arctic coast. But other than Barrow, not a whole lot falling with that. And then the the low center here, about 973 millibars. And again, that brought today, that brought winds gusting to 50 miles an hour at both King Cove and Cold Bay out of the southeast, and anywhere from up to 40 miles an hour here across, Igagik seeing gusts of 40 miles an hour earlier ahead of this front, and winds on the increase here, gusts 50 miles an hour. Portage this afternoon, and that tight gradient across the Copper River Basin with those 40 mile an hour winds. Now continue and push northward a little bit tonight. As we'll see, that front pushes right up to the northeast there, but the low center hanging back to the southwest, moving up to near Nikolsky or just to the south by 3 a.m. tomorrow morning or 4 a.m. in the morning. Good shot of rain, heavy at times for the Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula area, continuing then shifting eastward. And also on the southern slopes of the eastern Alaska Range, look for some moderate rainfall amounts there. with rain spreading up across the central, eastern, and upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country up to about Eagle, as moisture streams up that trough axis there. Be drier back to the west and northwest. Snow continues tonight there for the central Arctic coast, but that's about it right around the Barrow-Wainwright area. Fog, low clouds over to the east, and then some scattered rain and snow showers over the western north slope. Lots of showers, rain, fog, drizzle here for the Alaska Peninsula, but pretty showery back to the west with a low center. Showers with the Pribilofs on into the central Aleutians with dry weather, but a lot of clouds and fog out to the west. And the outlook for Saturday, that front continues to push northward here, but again, the precipitation area starting to fall apart here over the, or north in the upper Tanana Valley, but still pretty good chance of showers for Eagle and the White Mountain areas. South to north flow here will keep periods of light rain going along the coastal areas of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak. Up the west side of Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula looks wet tomorrow, as does Prince William Sound. And this front weakening, but holding together enough to push a band of rain into the northern panhandle. Southern areas could still see some partly sunny skies. Otherwise, narrow band of some mostly clear weather extends from the northern upper Yukon Valley back across the Kobuk, Selawik valleys into the Kotzebue Sound area, northern Seward Peninsula. Just some scattered rain and snow showers now, and that's about it there on the eastern Arctic coast. And northerly winds 15 to 25 here across St. Lawrence Island. Should be mostly, or will be dry. There'll be some areas of low clouds and fog, but also some sunshine there, even for St. Lawrence Island. And again, back toward the Seward Peninsula. Pick up the showers here, this slowly moving, slowly weakening low center over the Fox Islands. Scattered showers back toward Adak and Atka, cutting off at Adak. And again, the rain on the eastern side of the storm with that south to north wind flow continuing. And then the outlook for Sunday, that area of rain tomorrow over the southwest interior really dissipates into some showers right along the trough axis there. Holds together a little better here. Looks like some rain will slip on up into the northwest valleys on out toward Kotzebue, possibly to Shishmaref, but down across the Yukon River there. And then some showers extending up along that trough as it continues to lift northward. And again, tomorrow afternoon, the wind advisory ends, or tomorrow evening, so it'll be less wind, still a breeze there for the Copper River Basin, but nothing, it'll be down below advisory levels. Lots of clouds, showers, south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast, even some light rain continuing. Showers and unsettle over Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, is that low hangs in the area there, but continues to weaken. Quite weak now, really no winds to speak of with it, but still a fairly tight gradient here over the northern panhandle area. So Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, gusty south winds, some rain holding there, leftover moisture from that front, and then also front moisture streaming northeastward along this warm front is going to make for a wet day from Yakutat and across much of the northern southeast coast, scattering out to showers. Still a chance of sun down toward Dixon Entrance. Lows tonight down that way, upper 40s near 50 there. Upper 40s, 45 to 50 really for southern Alaska, 40 to 45, Tanana Valley, cooling into the 20s to mid 30s, Alaska, or I mean the Brooks Range, and upper 20s to lower 30s for the north slope and the Arctic coast, 40s out over the west. Highs, upper 40s here for the Aleutians, mid 40s in the Pribilofs, and mid 50s Kodiak Island, upper 50s Bristol Bay, upper 50s to lower 60s south central Alaska. Temperature approaching 70 over here, Tok Northway on up to Eagle. Otherwise, lower 60s for the greater Fairbanks area. Also the southern panhandle. Look for those temperatures approach 70 down there. And mid to upper 30s there for the Arctic coast, but Barrow looks like they'll be stuck at freezing. Mid 40s for the Pribilofs. Lows the following morning, lower 40s out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Lower 50s for the panhandle. Upper 40s, lower 50s, south central Alaska. Mid to upper 40s for the interior here. Staying chilly there from the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, so those lows still dropping into the upper 20s in some areas, and lower 40s out in the Aleutians. Highs 65 to 72 over the eastern interior, and pushing 70 down toward the southern southeast coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Northern Bering Sea stays pretty good VFR, St. Lawrence Island all the way down to the western Aleutians. AKwx in the IFR on up to the Pribilof Islands. Next ends up toward Kuskokwim Bay. More IFR here from the Kilburg-Auckland Mountains up along the Kuskokwims, and then also along and on the west or the east side of the Western Alaska Range. Starting the day out there all the way up, say, to Windy Pass, marginal VFR Copper River Basin, through the upper Tanana Valley of the White Mountains. And IFR here showing up over the northern panhandle, better conditions down south. Into the afternoon, we've got IFR right up along the central north coast there, with marginal VFR gradually increasing over the inland areas. IFR back to Kodiak Island, all the Gulf of Alaska, right on up to the coastline. Marginal VFR here right on up, and in some cases past the Alaska Range here up into the central interior. And then from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, marginal VFR, and some of that now sliding down through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island. IFR here out over the southeast Bering Sea, central eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, that holds through Sunday morning, right on up toward Kodiak Island. Pribilof's in the IFR, back down toward the central Aleutians, Nikolsky on Alaska, along the western Alaska Range here, southwest mountains, narrow band of VFR over the north central interior. And from Brooks Range, Koyukuk Valley areas on out to the north becomes IFR for the Arctic coast. Lots of IFR here for the Gulf of Alaska, right on up into the Wrangell Mountains, Prince William Sound, east side of the Kenai Peninsula, on in across the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, not much change there, except for some VFR possibly showing up there for Stewart, Annette Island, Metlakatla. But IFR there along the south coast all the way up, and becomes pretty expansive there over the northern panhandle. Marginal VFR here, southern Alaska. Now just not making it past the Alaska Range, so the central eastern interior looking really good. Marginal VFR as you get to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. North slope there breaking out the VFR in the afternoon, and the Arctic coast even seeing some improvement. IFR here from Nunivak Island, Pribilofs, on down into the Aleutians. For passes tomorrow, Anatuvik looks marginal throughout the day, as does Adigan, with VFR on the southern approaches, possibly. So lower conditions still on that north side. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR start with becoming hopefully marginal in the afternoon. Rainy, marginal VFR with occasional IFR here on the eastern entrance. And for windy, mostly marginal. Could start out IFR early in the morning here on the southern entrance, but generally it'd be kind of a marginal VFR day. Isabel starts out IFR becoming marginal. Mentesta, marginal. And for Tanita, marginal VFR here, probably holding VFR there on the western entrance, especially in the afternoon. And for Portage, IFR. Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, surface there for the Brooks Range there and on out to the Arctic coast. Obviously below freezing tomorrow morning. 2,000 feet, kind of a slow increase here to 8,000 feet. A little bit warmer air now slipping on up into southern Alaska. 8,000 feet here, 10,000 feet up into the Gulf and the Panhandle. A little cooler out here to the west, but not that much. And for the icing, lots of a widespread area. All that moisture sliding up to the north and northeast here, especially south to north. Some good icing possibilities here for south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, along the Alaska Range there. Above about 8,000 feet though, and sloping down to about 6,000 feet out here to the west, and becomes more scattered, isolated, and less of a threat. And also here over the northern panhandle, look for an increase in icing conditions. Jet stream, upper level ridging holding through this area, but this strong jet coming around this upper low, approaching the Fox Islands there. Southerly flow pushing that front and the moisture, rain right up into the southern Alaska, southwest interior, driving it northward there, and also producing stronger winds there for the eastern Alaska Range. I believe wind advisories are out. And for the 9,000-foot winds, northeasterlies 25 to 30 knots here, right on down into the west central Aleutians. Low center there near Dutch Harbor, southerlies 25 to 35, Kodiak Island, up to 40 knots on the North Gulf Coast. Lighter and more variable over the eastern interior of that low center, southwest at about 25 to 30 into the Panhandle. 3,000 feet, 20-25 here from the southwest for the Panhandle. And for turbulence, a lot of moderate chop here, southern Alaska, Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula.
It's kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the stratus starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Excuse me. Today's sea ice analysis, really not showing much change. This zone of ice right here just hanging tough, and looks like the northerly winds will start to advance this portion of the ice field southward a little bit over the next several days, and that's about all the changes that are expected to occur. For the coastal water forecast, small craft advisories here for the north coast. South 25 to 30 knots with gales over here on the extreme eastern North Gulf Coast, 35 knots out of the east, 15 to 20 on the south coast, seas 9 feet to as high as 12 to 14 feet up to the north. Small craft advisories, Lynn Canal, south 25, south 15, Stevens Passage, light northwest winds, about 15 knots for Clarence Strait. That continues through Sunday there. And winds drop off south-southwest down to 10 knots here on the south coast, down to 15 out of the south and southeast on the north coast. Excuse me, with seas 10 to 11 feet. Less wind for Lynn Canal, 15 knots now out of the south. Same thing for Stevens Passage, 3-foot seas. And for Prince William Sound, 25 knots out of the east tomorrow with 4-foot seas. And we've got east winds here from the North Gulf Coast, the eastern North Gulf Coast, so the gales a little farther to the east there. 30 knots out of the east, excuse me, southeast 15 there for the western North Gulf Coast. Back into small craft advisories for the Barren Islands, turning east at 25 into Kamishak Bay, northeast 15, south of the Forelands, and about 10 knots for northern Cook Inlet. And for Sunday, that kind of goes more variable to southerly at about 10 knots with 2-foot seas north of the Forelands, southern Cook Inlet, south 20, seas 5 feet, southeast 25, Kamishak Bay, small craft advisories down across the Barrens with seas as high as 11 feet here. Southeast 20 for the North Gulf Coast, and those seas running at about 11 feet, so that keeps small craft advisories going there, and 15 out of the southeast for Prince William Sound. East side of Kodiak Island, south 25, that goes all the way down to Castle Cape. Southeast 25, Castle Cape to Cape Sarachef. North side, east 20, Bristol Bay, southeast 20, Shelikof Strait, the same forecast. And that's pretty much holds a stationary status quo there. Southeast 20 knots now for all of Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, and the area from Sitkinak to Castle Cape. The Alaska Peninsula zone south at 20 with seas as high as 12 feet on the Pacific side, but only 4 feet there north side. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, still that wind pattern. Well, low pressure here is the reason. We've got a low center coming up very close there into the Fox Islands, just west of Unalaska Island. So 10 to 20 north-northwest on the backside and south 25 on the east side. North to northwest 20 knots out to Adak and Atka, and northerlies at 20 all the way out to probably the Komodorskis. And then those fall off even further down to 15 knots for Sunday there. See 6 to 7 feet. Northwest 20 knots. Turn west-southwest for Unalaska Island and come down to about 15. Southwest coast tomorrow, east 20 south of Nunivak Island, small craft advisories everywhere else. 25 for the Pribilofs, all northeast. 30 knots here, southwest coast north of the island into St. Matthew, and 25 for St. Lawrence Island, as well as the Norton Sound. And then for Sunday, those winds come down there in Norton Sound, east 15. Still, small craft advisories, St. Lawrence Island, and north 20 for the area north of Nunivak Island, but southeast 20 south of there, and 4-foot seas, northwest 20 with 7-foot seas for the Pribilofs, small craft advisories for St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, west to northwest 20 knots, strongest here in that eastern zone, light northerlies on the central coast and the west side. Cape Beaufort to Wales, northeast at 20. And for Sunday, light west winds, central coast all the way to the east, and then northeast 15 on the west side, 20-knot winds from Cape Beaufort on down to Wales. And for tonight again, snow persisting, continuous light snow, fog, low flying conditions, of course, there in the central Arctic coastal areas. Dry to the south with some clearing, and then the rain spreading northward here. Could be some moderate amounts on the southern slopes of the Alaska Range, where there's a wind advisory out through tomorrow for gusts of 55 miles an hour there for the Alaska Range through the passes. Heavier rain pushing eastward here along this front with wet, unsettled conditions hanging in behind the front due to this large area of low pressure out here, which slowly weakens and really doesn't move much through tomorrow. The front pushing rain, keeping it wet over the northern panel, some sun down to the south, rain back to the west here, and a little bit pushing into the southern upper Yukon Valley, and that slides off to the northwest on Sunday. More moisture keeps it wet over the northern panhandle, showery and unsettled over south central Alaska. Thanks so much for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.